Hello, this is Kyle Stedman here to review session F7, Aural, Rhetorics, and Multimodal Composing from the 2013 meeting of Computers and Writing Conference. I was inspired by the first presenter, Jessica Corey's presentation. It was called Sustainable Storytelling, Novice Teachers' Use of Audio Feedback. She was careful to point out in the presentation that that apostrophe should really be here. One novice teacher's use of audio feedback, her use of audio feedback. And what was really intriguing about this was that what Jessica did was she would give audio feedback to her students' writing, but also she would allow herself to go off on what almost might seem like tangents. She would think, what stories in my own life does this story in the student's essay remind me of? How can I show the student how much I am hearing him or her and how much I'm actually a real person feeling a real response to your writing? And this is partly in response to her background in creative nonfiction she mentioned. So in her presentation, she gave a lot of background of scholarship on storytelling, which honestly I felt a little embarrassed to be so unaware that there was so much great work on storytelling out there. And then she also talked a lot about some of the feedback on using audio feedback, focusing a lot on this fellow Philip Ice. I think he's in education. He, in one of his pieces here, says that we believe the inclusion of an auditory element might strengthen both the sense of community and the instructor's ability to effect more personalized communication with students. In other words, all the research on audio feedback says it's good, essentially. So what Jessica did was she actually played us an example of some of her audio feedback. She told the story of having a black Christmas tree one year, or she actually told the student and then shared that feedback with us. And how that her relationship to Christmas was something that she had to manage in this particular way, and how that seemed to be something like what the student was trying to say, trying to manage an identity in relation to a bigger cultural thing going on. I'm not remembering that right, but it was something like that. But it was awesome. We people in the audience on Twitter tended to think that it sounded really important, good work. The only downside really that Jessica shared with us was that she was having tech issues trying to figure out the best way when dealing with so many audio files, how to do that in a secure way. She ended up using a secure Dropbox, which she got FERPA clearance for from her university. And in the Q&A, we brainstormed a couple other possible ways to share audio feedback with students. In general, very inspiring stuff. Let me switch over to the second presentation. Valerie Robin, who was the second presenter, she mentioned that there was going to be a new word. Well, here was the new word she wanted to share with us. It was active looking. And to help get a sense of what active looking is before I quite define it, let me show you a little bit of a video that she showed during her presentation. The video goes on to help us think through all of the various interfaces that we're experiencing content through when we watch this video, or really in the bigger picture when we watch anything. Of course, if you don't believe that the video is really there, here it is. It was projected up on that stage, which adds a whole other layer of interfaces. Here's how Valerie Robin defines active looking. On her site, which is this nonlinear breeze through all sorts of interesting things related to active looking, she has a great definition page. And here's how she defines it: a process of seeing with specific intent to then produce. This is the core of her pedagogy and the core of what she wanted to share with us. This idea of training students to not just look at the communication they're getting, but also look at how it was made, look at the interfaces through which they get it. Not just to be like, oh, now I know that, but then so that they can produce something like it. It actually reminded me of James Paul G., who coincidentally was at the same conference, right? In when what video games have to teach us about learning and literacy, he has this line where he defines critical learning. He says it's a meta level sort of thinking about the game as a system and as a designed space. That's critical learning, that's critical thinking. It was a really great overlap between what Valerie was trying to tell us and the larger themes of the conference. So in practice, Valerie then talked a little bit about in her multimodal classroom what it might look like to proceed from a fundamental, what's the word, dedication to teaching active looking. It was great. Again, it was filled out in the Q&A. We had a lot of time for that. It was a really worthwhile time.